Art has always been a part of my life since I was young. Um, I love the idea that one can sit and alone and then dabble. When I was young, I was dabbling in drawing, and so and then as we were growing up, my mother would always take us to museums. So she said it's very important, and I was drawn to those paintings that I saw, um, and the beauty of it. Uh, yeah, that's how I started, and I mean, it being in my background, um, and then uh, I kept painting, just as a like summer. Uh, I took summer classes, and then although in college I didn't take fine arts because it wasn't, during the generation, parents don't really look at art as a profession. So I was told I need to do and take college degree as a fallback. So what I did was I took psychology, and I thought that would be a safe place because even if I don't practice it, I would know a little bit more about myself. And so I did. And after, I got the promise of uh, being able to study art. So I did. I went to Paris and I took up my art studies, painting, and then it went on from there. Just continue with my art. I got into, I also took jewelry design for practical reasons. My mother is a jeweler, and she asked me to help her in her business. So I was designing for her, I as an income, for income. So that's what I was doing. That was my day job. And uh, during the times that I wasn't um, designing and helping her run her business, I was painting. And I took it up though quite late after I had my, I mean, seriously, after I had my, or during my family, my children, then I really got into exhibiting. And then I took up my master's degree, um, master's in fine arts. And then it was just uh, seriously, career wise all the way then. Technology is very important. Well, especially now, you can't do anything without connection to the internet. Uh, Technology I took up early in my career because my MFA was on new media. Thus, we were really encouraged to incorporate new media, which was at the time video, um, uh, into our art. So I did a lot of video art. Uh, I also did because I'm very visceral with my uh, materials. I also did sculpture, and how I connected the two were did sculptural pieces, which I donned on my body and performed with, and I took videos with of my performances. So I took videos of my performances, and then edited them in a way that incorporated video art also. So they were many of them um, video installations. Yes. The type of sculpture that I did or have done that I used to perform with are I would call them what bullet dresses. So I work I work a lot with bullets because uh, there's a time in my life where when I lost my father to four bullets, and it was traumatic for me. I really access art uh, to deal with this, to help me. What would I say? Neutralize um, the emotional grip of the bullet and the gun, and what it all meant: violence, the loss, the tragic loss of my father. And so I worked with the material, and as I was deconstructing the material, of which I was afraid of in the beginning, um, it it gave me new perspectives, such as uh, this is not the bullet itself is not actually uh, something to be feared. It was what the meaning that I was attaching to the bullet that really gave my fear uh, existence. So I would cut the bullets, like the shotgun shells. I would cut, flatten the plastic parts, use the butt. Oh, these are all, by the way, these bullets are spent and used bullets, so they're the empty bullet shells. Um, and I would sew them together, put them together, and I would make costumes, which I would wear and have a performance. It was more like a ritual walk for me. Uh, and as I walked with uh, in those so-called bullet dress sculptures, would make me meditate, and as I walk on the issues I was facing, the loss, what it all meant to me, and I was processing this, and I would take it to uh, different cities. I connect to the trauma of the city. So one time I went to Berlin, and uh, I did a performative walk near uh, their river where Rosa Luxemburg was body was dumped. And this I connected to that, to the violence that was that happened to her. So I do those walks. One time I also went to Munster in Germany while I was at a residency in Schöppingen. And this is very interesting. I walked in the city, so along the roads, the inroads, and one time I went, and people watch you, look at you, and what I really want is when they interact. Uh, in Germany, there was a lady who came to me really close and said, "What are you doing here? This is not funny. You don't look good. You look ugly, and you should go home." She was circling me, and I stopped, and I asked, "What do you? Uh, why do you think this?" But she just kept on shouting. It elicited that emotion, a very uh, verbally aggressive emotion in her. So that really makes me curious why these were this was her um, reaction. Maybe it triggered something. What I really want is for her to go home and reflect what made her, what triggered that. In other countries, in other cities, though, the reception is different. Like in Manila, when I went to, uh, I had my performative walk in Manila. People like to touch. They're very tactile. Like they were touching the bullets, the dress, and they were coming close. One even wanted to borrow the 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 headgear that I put on my head, and which I did. I put it on her. Um, yeah. So the receptions are different in the U.S. When I did my walk in Manhattan. uh, there was somebody who came and said, "Oh, that's a 45. That's an M16. That's a so and so." And he was so proud, and he said, I know my bullets."
Those are blanks. I know my guns. I don't know a gun for that.
So yeah, so I those were little stories in different places that I've done my performances.
History, don't let mystery. Power's brass is symbolic. You got no idea. It's not crazy. Open your eyes, look and learn.
So No Way Forward, No Way Back is a three-channel video installation, and it's installed life size, so big walls, three big walls, and the performance I did, and I which I incorporated into the videos, were one one per guerrilla performance in Istanbul. The performance was done in Hagia Sophia, and it was guerrilla style. Now it's closed. It's now a church, right? Has been reconverted, but at that time it was still a museum, so it was open. Uh, I came and I said I wanted to be filmed inside, and a friend of mine who was taking the video, curator, said, "No, you're crazy." And I said, "Yeah, okay, granted, let's still do it." And then he goes, "Okay." um so I put the costume in a shopping bag, and there are x-rays going in, and so it looked like I was a tourist with a shopping bag. And I said, "And then I'll just put it on when we're inside, and then you have the camera, and then you just take my video." So we we went through the security. They it went through x-ray, and they didn't stop me. So I took my tourist shopping bag and went inside. And when we were inside, we were watching for the guards. He would say, "Okay, he passed. Okay, now put it on." So we would do that, and he would take the shot. It was actually just a headpiece, and I said, "I want you to take me close up." And so it was just a headpiece, and the background was the interior of Hagia Sophia. And so it was like a mask. At that time there was no pandemic yet. It was made out of brass plate, and it was covering my face, and it had a piece on top as well. um yeah, that was so interesting. I love doing that piece and the performance, and so I incorporated that into the video, and my many of my travels as well. uh, and it this was speaking to the issue of migration. At the time, that was the issue, the migration into Europe, uh, of the refugees, and them dying in the process, many dying in the process of travel. So you would see within the video, you see me, they're traveling from one screen to the other and to the other as it goes on, and it also incorporates the news clippings online of um, of what was happening at that time.
Is what I call the politics of fear. We no longer have positive visions. We have, the fear of the immigrant.
You need an inclusive strategy, not merely one which.
Yeah, so that's more or less the video, and that even the title is saying "No way forward, no way back." I mean, that was the where emotionally as well as perhaps politically or physically they were feeling, they were finding themselves. um, they can't go forward and they can't go back. So yeah, that was how I interpreted the what was going on. Oh, I'm preparing for a group show, so I'm making some works. For now, a group show on December. It's tough that we could even come together and uh, do a show, no. But yeah, I'm continuously working on my research on my last project, which was and it's a continuous project, which is about the um, the issue of the China's expansion. So many of my works touch on social political issues, and one of the things that's dear to my heart now, and I've been working on, is the issue on the global expansion of China, uh, or because it's changing the world order, you know, and also affecting my country, the Philippines, directly. We have a few islands that have been occupied by China, and so they have built military installation and bases in our islands and claim it as theirs. So this is that whole dispute, but it has been settled in the international courts to be owned by the Philippines, but it's occupied by China. And many um, mainland Chinese are moving or have moved before the pandemic. It was major uh, migration to our city and our country. And there were streets that I used to pass when I was younger, and as when I visited my mother, I would pass her street, and it was already populated by Chinese restaurants, groceries, and the signs outside were in Chinese characters and no English translation. So I was feeling, and many of the Filipinos felt invaded, right? You go to your own old streets and you have all these Chinese stores. So then I started doing my research, and yes, they're all over the world apparently. And then the Belt and Road Initiative, you know, I went so I went and did my research as well. I had a video of all these news compilation, which I I'm still working on again. I had a first edition of that, and then I'm continuously working on that that's my project for now. Yeah. Oh, usually that comes in very spontaneous, and it 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 comes in by chance, uh when you meet people and or co-artists who are also artists, and you start talking, and then you have an idea, and then artists are really very open many times because they want to break boundaries, so they keep themselves open. And when there's a project that they're attracted to, and then it just comes naturally. um Many of my collaborative projects are come by chance, and I just flow with it, because for me, um that that is a very, um although it's not a planned, super planned way and exact science. For me, I think the spirit and the energy that comes in a project that's very spontaneous, I like that. I like to work with that, and it the the energy that comes, the inspiration, it's fresh. It's fresh, and it's yeah. eh, I like working that way, as well. Of course, we have to have all these plans, but uh, especially for shooting and etc., this is all laid out. But the idea, the connection with ideas, really spontaneous. That I like. Yeah, the word is serendipity. When I meet people serendipitously, I like, I like working with that. So, for example, one of my when I planned to do a performance in Manhattan, I said, okay, I made a piece for Manhattan, and I said I wanted to walk or in the memorial, the place of the 9/11. At the time, there was no memorial yet; it was just closed and being constructed. And so I made a costume. I brought it to Manhattan, and I spoke to one of my friends, my close friends, when I was in college. Just a friendly talk, and I said, I'm planning to do this performance in Manhattan, and there's I don't know who can film me. I don't know how to do this. And she says, I have a friend there, and she's a filmmaker. Uh, she she can help you. And I said, are you sure? And so I reached out. She put us together. I reached out to her friend. Her friend was so generous. I don't know. It's like an angel that comes. You know, uh, I I think it. I created, and then angels come and make it happen. Help me make it happen. So I don't know. That's my story on serendipity.
Yeah, how much gun? How much? Yeah, that's what. Yeah, she used a whole. Yeah, that's a lot of shot. That's a lot of shot. These are these. This opens up the left, right? Alright, but those are sorry, my story behind it. So aren't you performance artists?
Process of making, I think it's different per project. I I create it, I conceptualize it. Sometimes uh, for especially for these uh, um, multimedia projects, it's difficult because you kind of have and very collaborative. You have to kind of find the right people to work with, and that you can count on to make the project a success. So I do have a plan. Sometimes I, in the past, sometimes I didn't. I just go with it, um, with the flow. Uh, and yeah, I think the more you create it and it comes, I don't know. That's how my my experience has been, especially for these performative walks. I just create the pieces, and I say so many, and I say who, if especially if when I was in residencies, whoever would like to help, they would help. And artists are really very, I've met very generous artists, and they would give me their time. They would take my photo, they'd do my video. um, in Vermont, for example, I did a performance also in the snow. I had to take it all the way up in the mountain, and I didn't have a car. So another artist friend said, I have a car. I'll take you up there, and I'll help you." And a photographer, one of the artists, photographers was also there. She said, "I have um, my large format camera. I want to take your photos as well," and so on and so forth. So, in creating the project, sometimes um I'm not very I try to be really planned about it, but forcing people to join, it doesn't happen well. So I invite them, and I show them my project plan, and then it happens. uh, yeah, sometimes I start at the end. I do the performance with my piece, and then I do the video. Like, I did the one in Istanbul. I filmed that without knowing I was going to put it in this video. I was just filming as I was traveling. I was filming, and it was only when I got settled in my studio sometime after those travels did I say, "Oh yes, I want to stitch these together. Now it makes sense." So sometimes you in a project, I start at the end. Sometimes I start in the beginning, and then it just kind of happens that way. I think artists will understand. As much as we try, like in school when we teach them, there's a kind of template, but sometimes really it doesn't come logically, step 1 to 10. Sometimes step 10 comes, and then 8, and then 7, and then back to 1. you know um yeah. Art plays a very important role, now. Number one, art inspires. I mean, at least that's what I like to think when I make my art. It really, I'd like it to inspire people. um they might take it, some people might take it um bad at first, like the reaction I got in Germany. But eventually, when she settles down, when you settle back down and you think about it, it gives you a new perspective. Having a new perspective in these times, is important, because you want to see, a different way of seeing, you want to have a different way of seeing your situation right now. Might be dire. uh you feel you're stuck at home, but really, what are the little blessings that you get? So for me, when you see art, when you see uh, yeah, when you see art, it gives you a new perspective in things. It gives you a slice of um, something that you haven't seen before. So something new. So there's always something new, that you in an experience, right? There's always something that you haven't experienced before, and keeping art in these times is for me important because it's one of the ways of connecting to something that's not just what's happening, the health pandemic, you know um, and art is always important even if it's not pandemic times, and always. Yeah. Don't give up. Yeah, don't give up. Just keep doing art. Just continue. Persistence really pays off. As artists, at least I speak for myself. I get obsessed. In the studio, I can get really obsessed with details on, particular thing. This has to be shiny, or this has to be what whatever, whatnot. It has to be a certain shade of blue. It has to be a certain shade of. It's not quite getting there yet. I can get obsessed, and I can spend days there, and forget to eat, forget to take care of my body. But I feel like as I'm aging, uh, it's really important to, yeah, to keep a certain um, watch out or look out with your health, not just like once a month or like once a year annual checkup, but to have a regular routine, because I feel like i- you can, you can go a little bit overboard with the obsessions and the compulsions within the studio and art making. So for me, I take myself out of the studio and have, uh, either I do yoga, or I do I take a walk, uh, or whatever is available. Take a Just really just take me out of the studio, and do a little physical exercise, do some physical exercise, because I feel sometimes the energy also uh, is somatic, it's connected to your body. And if your body hasn't released these energies, it can get crazy a bit. So I feel for me, I need to release certain energies physically, somatically, so that I can connect to continue working with my art.